So speaking of which, question of the week that we got from you guys yesterday during the floor press is like, what's the difference between a bench press and a floor press, similar to the front squat versus the back squat? Why do one versus the other? So Vincent, do you want to give them a little bit of an idea? Like, let's just start with like what the main differences are between the two.
Yeah. So the main difference, obviously, if you just think about the two movements in general, is when you are bench pressing, your elbows move freely throughout the entire motion until that barbell hits your chest. Your elbows are not going to stop anywhere. You're lowering down, you hit your chest, and you drive on out of there. With a floor press, rather than lowering down to our chest, we're lowering down to our triceps hit the ground. So in layman's term, what that means is the range of motion is slightly shorter on a floor press versus a bench press. That's the primary main difference between the two.
Yeah, right. And like being that shorter range of motion, it's really going to help us develop like our ability to lock out because it is going to be, more tricep. I mean, obviously your chest is still involved, but you're going to be activating and using your triceps more than you might in a regular bench press. So like anything you're doing, whether it's like push jerking, split jerking, even a strict press, right? If like most people, like if you get to hear about and like you're failing a strict press, it's more than likely at that point, some sort of lockout issue, right? So the floor press is a nice option to train that lockout strength. It's also good. It's also honestly probably a safer variation of a bench press for a lot of people. I mean, I don't know. I think that's, especially true with a lot of guys who have just been in like, LA Fitness or like Globo Gym type scenarios where it's like you're just benching all the time and then you blow out your shoulder, right? Because you're so tight, you don't have the range of motion, you don't have the proper technique. Doing a floor press really eliminates a lot of the potential downfalls that can occur with a bench press.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. That's what I was going to say. Obviously, with our bench press versus our floor press, you hit the big things, a little bit more tricep involvement in the floor press. But safety is a big thing just because the range of motion is a little bit shorter, especially as we try to push loads, which, in general, I think everybody does, especially if we're on like sort of a max out day. Because the range of motion is bigger on a bench press, there's more risk of some of those shoulder stabilizer muscles to give out on you. So the floor press with that slightly decreased range of motion tends to be a little bit safer for members' shoulders as well.
Yeah, because if you're somebody who just has any sort of tightness like in your chest, right? You can just stay right here and you can feel like, okay, my pec, my shoulder muscles, they're only stretching so far. And then you can pull it all the way back to here and really feel how far they stretch. Now we couple that right with under load and tension, and you can see how it doesn't happen a lot of the time or to a ton of people, but it does happen from time to time. So floor pressing with the general population in our big classes or something that we just tend to we tend to do more than benching. Like, but in build, like we just got done with a great bench press cycle, but it was a smaller group, right? It allowed us to really focus in on technique and make sure that there weren't going to be any issues for anybody.
Yeah, and diving in even a little deeper, this might even be more than some people, care to hear. But a lot of times, if you, even see powerlifters will train with that sort of big block off their chest to decrease the range of motion a little bit on their actual bench press. Competition day, they obviously know they're not going to have a block sticking on their chest, but they can kind of work at sometimes slightly higher loads, with a decreased range of motion. And for those of you who have bench pressed a lot in the past or whatever, that as we lower, we can sometimes get a little bit of a bounce off the chest. Myself personally, I know my sticking point is rarely at my chest. It's basically right where we get to with the floor press. So that floor press or, something like a block press can help us work on that last half of the rep that becomes the sticking point for a lot of people come a 1 rep max bench press or things like that.